Yes, come on in. Yes, good to see you. Take a seat. Long day today. We'd like a drink. There's still some tea left over there. Help yourself. Never been a huge fan of Egyptian tea myself, so... There it is, English breakfast. Although I'm afraid it's, cold. Well, as cold as anything gets here. Dreadfully hot. You should have seen it in the 3rd season. Shame you weren't there. You would have enjoyed that. No, that was in the 4th season. So how was your progress today, on the other side? Yes? Good. Mine was too. We came across a most remarkable artifact, actually. Yeah. Let me show it to you. I think it's about the same period. Be very careful with it. How's the tea? Yes. Not exactly perfect, I know. Did I never tell you about that? No, of course, I don't mind talking about it. Over a nice civilized cup of tea, of course. No, I don't mind at all. I'm just gathering my thoughts. It is something I will never forget. Yes, we'd been searching for such a long time. Until we came across it. At first we thought, perhaps this was the tomb of some high-ranking noble. An important dignitary of some sort, who had been given special leave to be buried within the valley of the kings. But then it was quite some time till we discovered that was very far from the case. I remember under the rubble once we found it. The entrance. You could see that the passageway been blocked off with several rocks, and we thought we'd found ourselves this undisturbed dignitary's chamber. I remember when we had the first rocks removed. Just at that entranceway, all of the signs of life were to be seen there. A half-filled mortar and pestle. Little wood shavings where a careless carpenter had left without cleaning. Even fingerprints on the paint themselves. In that moment, time lost all meaning. It just showed what a very short period of time, 33 centuries, was. It took some time to get the main corridor opened. Yes. And then we managed to get ourselves to the entrance of what was the antechamber. And we could see just a small window into this remarkable antechamber. And when I was able to push through the blockage, the sort of the scent and the stagnant wind of the tomb came through, and it flickered the light that I had my lighter. And I peered inside. Then I was just silent. Lord Carvervan eventually asked me, "What can you see, man?" And I said, I was told later, I said, "Wondrous things." And indeed, it was filled with wondrous things. We knew that this was not the small tomb of some important dignitary, but we were indeed standing within the entrance of the tomb of a king. Wondrous things. When we eventually got inside the antechamber itself, 6 chariots, all disassembled, huge piles of treasures everywhere. There was a wooden torso of the boy king himself, Tutankhamen, painted in his likeness. It was in itself an interesting artifact because it gave this likeness, and I think it was for the king to hang his clothing on, so that he could see how he could be dressed before he was actually dressed. Such fine detail. There were ivory board games in there. As you know, the Egyptians were keen players of games. I think this one was... The aim of this one was to find one's way from living to the heavens beyond in death. Which was rather appropriate, really, when you think about it. There was a system, I remember, eventually, we uncovered that. You know, the device that they shake, which they believed would help free the soul from the body. 2 wooden guards at the side of what became known to us eventually as the burial chamber. Ivory neck rests, very ornate, beautiful, curved things for which the boy king would rest his head before bed. I think the chariots were the most striking. And then just off that chamber to the left was an annex, which had even more fascinating, interesting objects. Yeah. Most remarkable. And then, what was to bar our progress the most remarkable of things? The burial chamber. As you would go in, annex over here, door to the right by 2 wooden guards, the burial chamber. It effectively blocked our progress completely. Huge stone shrine. The walls themselves were wooden pillars. The walls themselves covered in hieroglyphics and paintings of the young boy's life. And we knew that we stood at the precipice of the boy king's burial. $1.25 tons. That's how much it weighed. 1.25 tons. And we lifted, I say we, a team lifted the top of this massive monolith to reveal a coffin, a large golden coffin, remarkable. And what in it would it contain but the boy himself, the mummy, the king, the pharaoh, Tutankhamen. And so when that was lifted, the first coffin, how disappointing. Linens, wrapped linens. How disappointing. When the last of those linens was taken away, another coffin, a second coffin, was found, covered in gold. Remarkable. And then under that a third, the inner coffin, a third coffin. But what was most remarkable was not all the gold and the silver and the fancy artistic work, although that in itself was stunning. And I realized something that no one has experienced for hundreds, if not thousands of years. No, what struck us all the most was the bouquet of shriveled flowers that lay upon the inner coffin. I imagine it was a token, a farewell from the boy's widowed queen. One final offering. And seeing those flowers there, it just really put into perspective how short a period of time 33 centuries really is. And then, of course, once the inner coffin was opened, we found ourselves in the presence of the boy king with the most remarkable gold mask covering his mummified body. You will have seen this one, of course, you'll have seen them all. And I imagined when you did see it, it was most breathtaking. Now try to imagine someone who had, for many years, searched and searched and searched for this item. And then the slow, painstaking progress of through the corridors itself, through the antechamber, going through the annex itself, into that burial chamber, and then being presented with that mask. I shall never forget it, and I don't think I'll ever have the words to describe how it felt, for no one will ever have that experience. Most fortunate. That beautiful golden burial mask. Once we had those removed, there was one final surprise for us. We were already happy with what we had found. But yes, as one would enter the chamber, to the right there was a sealed room, which turned out to be the treasury filled with gold. There were model boats there that, symbolized the journey to the underworld. Those in themselves, I say model, they were, the size of, the span, I would say it's 6 feet. Easily the height of a man. And then, of course, the canopic chest, which was rather beautifully decorated as well. It had a golden canopic shrine with 4 jars, each of which held the important organs of the mummy: the lungs, the liver, no, not the heart. The heart was considered the soul of the departed, and so it was left within the body. We found this today. I'm not sure what it's made of. It's a coarse metal. The broken. Ears are broken. Sorry, let me light it for you. Can you see it more clearly? That's right. Anubis. The jackal-haired god of the underworld. I mention him because he was not only the guide to the underworld, but he was also the key facet and the key witness to the weighing of the heart. That's why it was left in the chest. The guardian of the scales. Each heart, each Egyptian's heart, was to be measured and then weighed against truth. Truth was mainly denoted by an ostrich feather, and if Anubis found your heart to weigh less than an ostrich feather, then you are allowed to enter the kingdom of heaven. Of course, yes. Bastard. It's a little hard to see, I know. Well, that's because it is Sekhmet as well. This is sort of the gentler aspect. Yes. The cat goddess. Probably specifically bastard at this point. Regal looking, rings in the ear. She eventually became associated with the Greek goddess Artemis, divine hunter, goddess of the moon. I do think about it often. Yes. I think about the loss of it. Well, when you and I are gone, long gone, with it will go the memory of the discovery of the tomb. And that's not something that can be replicated. They can replicate the tomb. I'm certain they will, many times, and the artifacts. And there will be the original artifacts that anyone can come across and see. There'll be pictures of them. And a visit to the Cairo Museum, you'll be able to see it in person, but nothing will be able to recreate that moment. Just a few of us, when we saw wondrous things. I wish I could gift that. I really do. I wish I could gift that experience, that memory, to a museum. But some things can't be preserved. Some things cannot be produced in facsimile. Still lots of people living who have experienced it. Would you do me a favor? Would you allow me just to help you visualize it? It won't be the same. But perhaps you could pass it on. Just close your eyes. Just for a second and imagine. You can imagine better than most. The smell. The dusty tomb-like smell. You're already giddy with the feeling of discovery. Because of course you've came through the main chamber. You've seen the fingerprints and the paint. Time has become a nebulous, confusing thing. And you've carefully sorted through the antechamber, tagging and documenting everything that's been found. And the annex, trivial. And then coming through and having that lift of the first coffin. And then the disappointment of the rough, strange linen that encases something that is going to become most surprising and shocking. And then you will see that second coffin. And you wouldn't even dream of a third coffin. But then that third coffin comes into sight, covered in gold. Imagine it soft and cold to the touch. You're one of the few people who'll be able to touch this coffin. That coldness courses through your fingers and your hands. And you can feel the painstaking amount of time that was spent. Hundreds of hours of people's lives spent on a single person's death. And the flowers, thinking of that link between mortality and immortality. And then the death mask, and the mummy itself. Linking you to everything, to the carpenters, to the carvers, to those who brought the stone slabs, to the artisans and the widow, to the dignitaries, to the embalmer. History, living history. You can open your eyes. I should say that maybe in 100 years' time, we will be relics. Maybe the things that we've done will be in themselves archaeological finds one day in the future. And I'm sure we'll have made a terrible job of it. I'm sure they'll have a lot more sophisticated ways of excavation. Anyway, I've bored you enough, I imagine. That wasn't worth the tea, was it? Well, at least it's going to help you sleep tonight. No, the pleasure was all mine. As I say, I don't mind telling that tale at all. I've never really enjoyed telling it to large crowds. But when there's a smaller audience, I always find it quite enjoyable. Yes, of course. You're going to have to be up very early tomorrow. Me too. Yes, I'll bid you good night then. And I'll see you again tomorrow for more of the same. More of the same astonishing experiences.